Why I picked 3 biennial cycles is I think it would take that much time for a good look at what makes the dysfunction in the system. We've got lots of suggestions of why the system is dysfunctional. The first thing, by the way, I would stop comparing us to other states. Hawaii is a school district. It is between the 7th and 9th largest school district in the United States. You cannot compare it to the state of Michigan, where I come from. Of course, the superintendent of schools in the state of Michigan appoints the State Board of Education. But they don't appoint the Detroit Board of Education, or the Benton Harbor Board of Education, or the Ann Arbor Board of Education. So we have to compare district to district, otherwise we're comparing apples and oranges. Then after 6 years with the work, and I would invite the unions, I would invite the PTSA, which unfortunately over the past couple of years has been, I think, surprisingly missing in the educational debate that's going on. We'd invite the State Student Council, HSTA, the State Student Council, the Board of Education, the Department of Education worked on a student code of conduct, which has been judged as the best student code of conduct in the entire United States. I bet none of you have ever heard of it. But you got to get the kids involved. They are consumers. And they have lots of very strong feelings about how schools should operate. And then once we identify the dysfunctions and the way that we can cure the dysfunctions, I would come out of that 6-year period with the following suggestions. Number 1 is I would reapportion the Board of Education to a 25-member Board of Education to mirror the senatorial district. So everybody in that senatorial district knows who their board member is. It makes absolutely no sense that Mary Cochran is running a canoe district and has the Big Island and Lanai, Molokai, and Maui, and nobody knows who she is on those places. Do it by senatorial district. Don't tell me it can't work, or otherwise you're telling me the Senate can't work either, because it's got 25 members. I identify a whole district. There were some people who suggested we cluster 3 House districts at one point, but that idea got scuttled. Secondly is I would agree to move the money down to the school level. And I agree with Randy that school administrators have to be involved in deciding what it is they want to be able to control. But I don't particularly like a piecemeal plan where some principals over here want to do this and some principals over here want to do that, because all of a sudden you create bureaucracies to deal with that and the difference of that. So I would move the money down. Thirdly, you have to reduce the span of supervision in schools. I don't care how many times you rotate the 3 tires on the car, it isn't going to be an Indy winner until you put the 4th tire on the car. And I hear lots of people talk about, oh, Hawaii schools are spending almost as much money as the private schools are. If we knew how much money private schools were actually paying per child, we know Kamehameha is estimating they pay about $30,000 per child. So you can't compare tuition and per pupil expenditures. They're 2 different balls. Let's be fair and compare apples and oranges and oranges. But we're going to have to make a commitment to spend more money. And what I'm suggesting is, given that 6-year span of time, the 3 biennial cycles, gives us an opportunity to identify the dysfunctions, identify cures, put a new Board of Education in place, and be able to truly hold them accountable for what they do, and continue to keep the legislature out of tinkering in the classroom. Hopefully with the Obama administration we're going to see a change in No Child Left Behind, which I have to tell you is a yoke unlike any other yoke schools have had to carry. By 2014, it is estimated that every public school in the United States will fail, because the criteria is every 3rd grade child must read at a 3rd grade, with the exception of 7% of special education children who are excluded. That's unfair to every kid who doesn't make the 3rd grade level. The other thing I suggest is our schools are way too large. I think many of you know Marianne Graywood, late Marianne Graywood, who was just appalled at the size of our schools. They are simply too large. Kids get lost in those schools. You know, August Orange at one time had 11 kindergartens. Can you imagine a kid coming from a nuclear family into and trying to find our schools are simply too large. Our classes are too large. Some classes can be big, some classes can be small. But the bottom line is just to look at the governance structure is just tinkering. You have to go down below the surface. And Randy and I have debated this long and hard. Go below the surface and take a look at some of the other things that need to be dealt with. Because what you will have is a governor appointing a school board and then 76 heads of the Hydra sitting over in the legislature, all ready to bite. Now, you can't have accountability that way. So you got to clean up the line. And my suggestions are exactly that, my suggestions.